Hello everyone and welcome back to Dragalia Foundry, a fan channel where everything Dragalia Lost can be found. In today's video, I'll be talking about this month in Dragalia Lost. This is where the game's director Okada talks to us about what's to come and what the roadmap is for the current month in Dragalia Lost, and often teases or hints at things that will happen in the future or for the game as a whole. So I'm looking forward to this. We always get these toward the start of a new month. And September in particular is exciting because it's the anniversary month for the game. So around the 27th or 28th is when the anniversary will happen, and the anniversary festivities will probably lead up to that and go into October. So I think it's a very good time if you want to start playing the game to kind of get yourself started and situated, give yourself a little bit of a head start, become comfortable with the game so that by the time the anniversary happens, you feel fully prepared to take on any new content or exciting quests that come out at that time. That's my 2 cents on the matter. Of course, with it being an anniversary month, there's going to be a Dragalia Digest, which is a video posted on the game's YouTube channel that will formally walk through and officially unveil a lot of surprises that are going to happen this month. So for that reason, this time around, this month in Dragalia Lost is not as robust as in past months. It's a little bit more filler and repeated information, but nevertheless, there's some exciting tidbits here that I wanted to discuss with y'all today. So that's what we're going to be doing in this video. Like always, I'll just go through topic by topic. We'll break away for some of the more complicated topics like the mana spiral, since we actually have more details than what is expressed just in this month in DL by this point. So that's the plan. Hopefully you enjoyed this. It's going to be more of a conversational talking video, so if that's not your thing, I understand. But there is a topic in here about the game's balance and elements, and that I'm really looking forward to, sparking some conversation around, since that's been such a hot topic recently. Anyway, let's get into it. So the first topic brought up in this month in Dragalia Lost is the current facility event, Agents of the Goddess. This event does have a really sweet original theme song. The story involves the Northern Church, or the Church of Northern Grastia, headquartered presumably in Grams, or at least part of the church seems to be located there. We find out about some of the differences between the Southern Church and the Northern Church. We are introduced to Ramiel, Sandalphon, Nevin, Pinon. I haven't made a video on this yet because there's some content that's time-gated and I want to wait until that comes out so I can kind of fully appreciate the event as a whole. But one of the really nice things about this event is the facility you get from doing it, and that's a strong reason to do all facility events, but this time around it's a weapon facility that affects axes and staves or staffs. I'm very happy to see that facility that rounds out the facility so that now every weapon type has some type of event facility associated with it. And I also think it's a nice nod that they paired axes and staffs together, because when you think about the Ilian Church or Inquisitors, you might think about Heinwald and Curran, or just in general for staffs like Hildegard. I mean, there's a lot of other characters who are associated with the Ilian Fate that wield these weapon types. Of course, Lance is also probably number 3 or in the top 3 for that list as well. But yeah, I like the pairing. I like the facility. It's nice. It's a smaller facility. Doesn't take up as much space. For those of you who do like displaying everything in your Halidom, even if you don't display it, of course, the effects still apply, which is nice. But yeah, I've liked this event. Good things to say about the story, but I'll hold off on my full impressions until I've played through all of the content. Next up, we have Tartarus' Wrath. You've seen some of my solo clears of this. I've also done some co-op clears using Hawk and plan to do some using Light Adventurers. The big thing about this for me is I'm genuinely excited to actually grind out these weapons this time. The fight feels pretty enjoyable. There's a variety of dimensions to it, a variety of lanes of attack, so to speak. You can take it on in different ways, and I like that aspect of it. But I think honestly, most importantly, for content that's meant to be grinded out, the reward on this actually feels pretty good. I think those light weapons are actually exciting. The fact that you get so much shapeshift gauge, the second time you use the skill, you get some skill haste. Obviously, you're using some strength or losing some strength when you toggle between the 2 modes on these Agito weapons. But I actually think these are the best Agito weapons we've had since the Shadow ones, which gave attack rate. And in particular, since I have been soloing this, I know that for backline characters, you get extra dragons so fast in that fight, it makes a big difference in ease of soloing for sure. Being able to get extra dragons early on means that you can kind of trivialize some harder parts of the phase 1 fight. Even with weapons that had no unbinds, which is what I was using for my clears, it was still pretty effective. So I'm liking this so far. I think just like with the shadow element where I collected all the weapons, I think I'm actually going to try collect all the weapons again this time. And that's only the second time that's happened after Kayan. And Kayan was done mostly because it was so easy to auto. And that's why I collected all the weapons, and because they were also quite good. In this case, it's more so just, I think they're very interesting. I think the fact that you can passively accumulate dragon is really cool, and I like some of the mechanics of the fight, so I've genuinely enjoyed it a lot so far. Okay, next up, we hear about the Gala. Nevin, Pinon, and Ramiel are going to appear in the Gala alongside Gala Thor. Y'all already know about this. I did my Gala summoning. Very tempted to go back in and summon some more. Not gonna lie, because let me just say Ramiel has impressed me tremendously by the fact that Ramiel works on helpers. If you have someone on your friends list with a Ramiel, especially one that is max unbound, let's say, you get 50% dragon gauge by taking them as a helper. And you could get more. You know, if it's an Audric, you could get 60%, and if they equip Bridal Dragon or any other, shapeshift prep print, you could get up to 70%, or on a non-Audric character, you could get 60%. Some of the insane applications of this, for me, at least so far, have been, number one, when I'm soloing Tartarus's Wrath on Expert difficulty, I can immediately have a dragon by taking a Ramiel helper. That lets me get 2 dragons in phase 1 of the fight and clear in about a minute time phase 1 and then get into phase 2. Especially with Gala Thor, like having immediate access to a dragon is always great. They're generally pretty strong, it's good to have access to them. But a dragon like Gala Thor, having immediate access to that is just really absurd. And some of the fastest comps now are like light speed comps where Gala Luca is using Thor and whatnot. So I think Ramiel, if you're interested in solo play, it's not so much that you having him helps, although he could be used in a backline character and still potentially help you. It's more so convincing your friends to summon him that can help you. And the other aspect that he's impressed me in is for Marth. If you want to get Marth to low HP to trigger last boost in a solo context, you can use a Grace Helper. If that Grace Helper also is equipped with Ramiel, suddenly you have not only last boost activation on Marth, you also immediately have a shapeshift available, so you could become a Mars, let's say, recharge all your skills. Like, tends to be that the types of content you'd want to solo with a method like that don't last that long, but I think Ramiel can do some really busted things when you're using it on a helper. And just in general in solo, let's say you bring a shadow unit like Delphi, whose stats are not the most important thing. They don't have a lot of Delphi doesn't have a lot of care what dragon is equipped to him. He still fulfills his functions of debuffing and poisoning and whatnot, regardless of the dragon. In fact, you don't want a skill damage dragon on Delphi. Well, on Delphi, a dragon like Ramiel, if you're just using Delphi as part of your solo team, is insane if you're willing to not do full auto and actually take advantage of the dragon transformation. So all that to say, I'm so tempted, and I really like Nevin in the story, and I want more Thor unbinds. So tempted to do more summoning on this, but I'm going to try refrain for right now, just save up my resources. I don't know, you may see a summoning video for me in the next couple days. I do think this is a genuinely quite good Gala. For plans for this month, so that's the recap, I suppose, what we've just finished. For plans for this month, Mana Spirals will be added for Lightattune's Adventures, Estelle, Luca, and Lucretia. That's happening basically today or a day from now. Whenever you're watching this may already have happened, but this is happening very soon. This deserves a fuller look, and there's another notification about it, so we'll come back to this. Otherwise, for plans for this month, a defensive event will be held in mid-September. I'm fully expecting we're not going to get new maps. I think we're just going to get the Fire Emblem 2 maps for this, because with the first defensive event, we got the Fire Emblem 1 map, so I think they're kind of stretching out the content, trying to do that so that they can hopefully devote those development resources to what's to come for the anniversary and the following months. But they do say about this event that a certain pair will play a big role and the story will focus on the secrets of their origins. And there's lots of characters in Dragalia this could apply to. I mean, it could be Laxi and Mascula, it could be Navid and Verica, it could be Albert and Urius, it could be so many different characters. And what I like about these defensive and onslaught events is that they've kind of given a spotlight to characters who may not have had a full spotlight in the past. I know it's a little early to say that because we've only had a few examples so far, right? But I do think that that's sort of true, especially when we had the Defensive Battles event last time. I mean, the Defensive Battles event, let me think, who was even on that event? It was, I actually forgot. Oh yeah, it was Summer Mikoto and Summer Patia, of course. So I was getting mixed up with the following event, which was Yukata Cassandra and Yukata Kurin, both of whom had a real event of their own. But Mikoto and Patia, they never really had a real event of their own. So it's kind of cool that they get their own story. So I hope that they pick characters who we may not be as familiar with. And they also say you're going to be able to autoplay on the easier difficulties that are designed to be played without much hassle. That's a nice convenience feature for the defensive battles. I know people are going to like that. They're also adding Japanese voices, so they're kind of upping the production value on these, which I also think is a good thing. A revival of the Fractured Futures event will be held in late September. This is very nice to see. This was a great raid event, awesome story, probably my favorite raid boss in the game in the form of Kronos Nyx. Kronos Nyx is like a legendary tier raid boss. It was just so epic. It had mechanics that were really flashy and really interesting. You had to do the Omega solo for the first time ever, and it was a genuine challenge for many players, but you could approach it in so many different ways. I think that this is an awesome raid event. It was like ushering in an era of new, good, and better raid events for the most part. So I'm excited to see this come back and have people get a chance to play it, especially because the story actually connects a lot to the main story. Other than that, we find out that the event provides... Oh, I guess this is what I just said. This event provides a closer look at the story, at the heart, and into the heart of the Dragalia Lost story and setting. So I hope those of you who haven't experienced yet will take the opportunity to do so. Definitely recommend playing through the story on that one. We'll also get an interlude in Chapter 15 in late September. Interesting that they're not bumping up Chapter 16, but this interlude will probably be high impact, I guess. And I'm fully expecting for the end of September, we're going to get a Gala Dragalia for the anniversary. My opinion is, my inference is that we're going to have Gala Xena, because they've kind of played up her role really rapidly since she appeared. And I think it's a way for them to have kind of like a Zethia on a banner without actually having Zethia proper. So that's my expectation for the anniversary Gala. I also feel like she would do really well financially for them. We're going to get Master Difficulty for Ciela, but that's going to be in early October. Interesting, we're finally taking a month off from Agito, but likely to do with the anniversary, so this isn't too much of a surprise. They seem to be releasing the Master Difficulties in the order that the Expert Difficulties released. And Ciela probably could use this, since the Expert fights, as players have grinded out more gear, is a little easier to do in auto. It's kind of like Kion's Wrath in that there's highly consistent auto setups. So I think that that's burned a little bit of the excitement around it originally. Dragalia Lost will celebrate its second anniversary on September 27th. Like the first anniversary, the second will feature a variety of celebratory events, including a raid event related to the main campaign. Awesome to hear that. Playing through the recently added Chapter 15 will ensure you're caught up on the latest story beats and can enjoy this event to the fullest. We're working on more than just the story, though. Look forward to going up against an all-new raid boss, too. Fair enough. Raids are exciting, especially just the production value. I mean, raids and facility events have really had good production value this year, as infrequent as sometimes the events may feel to be, like Rhythmic Resolution's original track. Time Worn Torment, I think same thing. The current facility event, original music. Doomsday Getaway, original music, really creative theme. So I do think they've done a good job, even though we're not having these like back-to-back new events. I think that they've put the quality to the forefront with some of that. So I'm looking forward to the anniversary, and I think the anniversary event, they always try one up themselves, so it should be pretty good. Okay, for future updates, this is an important topic to get into. The next update will be released in the second anniversary, so they plan to implement a variety of adjustments to existing features and add new ones while addressing game balance. So, game balance with Tartarus' Wrath, a lot of people have been raising concerns. They were dissatisfied that Shadow was getting the fastest clear times. Obviously, they don't talk about Elisan, she's water, Hawk, obviously wind. So there are other elements with very strong characters, but I think people are so dissatisfied with Shadow because it's got such a deep roster of very strong characters, when other elements, there's only a few characters that are powerful, or you need to have really particular setups. Like Gala Thor is busted. Gala Thor is so good that for the light element, a lot of your capacity might depend on having access to Gala Thor, for example. In the shadow element, if you have Cat Sith, that's probably a bonus in a short fight, but there's also a deep collection of really good dragons. So I think that there is an imbalance. It's fair to acknowledge, even though there are some utility characters like Hawk and Elisan that get used pretty regularly. One of the nice things, the way Tartarus' Wrath has worked out, though, is we are seeing that now, a lot of the fast comps are wanting to use light adventurers, but part of it is Gala Thor. So take that for what you will. But included in these changes will be large-scale adjustments to the balance of adventurers, dragons, and weapons. And they acknowledge, at the moment, the damage output and skill performance of shadow-tuned adventurers is stronger than those of other elements, leading players to prioritize their inclusion in teams, regardless of whether or not Shadow has the elemental advantage in a particular quest. While we don't feel that damage output and skill performance need to be completely equal across all 5 elements, we recognize that shadow-attuned adventurers are noticeably stronger than their counterparts at this time. Perfect. I think they said it better than I ever could. They are acknowledging it. I think that that's a very good thing. To address this imbalance, we plan to adjust the other 4 elements so they perform at a similarly high standard. You love to hear it, so don't nerf Shadow, buff the other elements to that same level. We may have to adjust the strength of enemies alongside these changes, but we'll take care not to alter the current gameplay experience too much. These balance adjustments will be implemented in an update in late September. So I think in a recent Radio Castle interview, which is a companion show in Japanese for the game, the game's director Okada took some questions. These usually get published in English later in the month or a few weeks after the interview, so I expect to see those show up in the notice board soon. But the same topic came up there, and Director Okada said that this second anniversary update is like the biggest game rebalancing update that we've ever had. So I'm very hyped for that. I think there's so many forgotten characters that really could use the love and could use a boost. So hopefully it works out. I mean, why not? I feel like why not try it at this point? I guess the worst case is, somebody's favorite character is no longer what they were. So kind of like the Mana Spiral complaint where you're changing play styles a lot or things like that. But the way they're describing it here, it doesn't sound like that's a possibility. It seems more like they're modifying, damage, maybe stats, SP costs, so things that kind of happen in the background of the game. The other thing that they're going to update is the weapon system. I have been waiting for this almost as long as I've been waiting for the encyclopedia, which has now gone into vaporware territory. But the weapon system was, we were told it was going to get an update like several months ago, and I had been waiting to do an updated beginner's guide because the current weapon system is pretty confusing, and I was hoping they would change it so that the guide could really cover like the latest and greatest as far as that. But they've waited a while, hopefully for good reason. It says they acknowledge there are a lot of weapons players can craft. Figuring out which ones to make can be confusing. I agree with that, and frankly, there's just a lot of weapons that don't really need to exist. Like, they're just really a lot worse, strictly worse than other options. Players also obtain weapons as rewards, but often there's not enough space for them. Players could dismantle those weapons, but that can be a frustration as well. So in the next update, we'll adjust the way weapons are obtained and upgraded with the aim of alleviating the above concerns. Since this will be a large departure from the current system, we'll provide further details in a notification before the update is released. I'm very happy to see this is happening. In addition to what I've covered here, we plan to include further gameplay improvements and enhancements in the next update, and we'll release a Dragalia Digest in late September with more information. Awesome, glad to see that as well. So there's really not a lot of concrete details on the anniversary plans. This is mostly a recap with a little bit of info about rebalancing and a Fractured Futures rerun. But to round out the video, of course we got our gift, but to round out the video, I'll just talk about the mana spirals. There's a light focus happening as well. I don't really think I need to get into that. I think it's very clearly a skip. The anniversary is right around the corner. There might be a Gala remix before the anniversary even. And the current Gala is just a way better value than going for this light focus. You know what the most important light thing is right now in the game? Gala Thor. And Gala Thor is not going to be on the light focus because he's limited to Gala banners. So I would not really spend time summoning on this. It's also very confusing because they said Pinon and Ramiel will be on the next showcase, but they're probably not going to be on a light focus showcase because it's literally only light element things. So I submitted a ticket to get help on that, but I don't know what's going on as far as that goes. Here we go with the mana spirals though. Lucretia, Luca, and Estelle, all characters who really could use the mana spiral treatment. They had been power crept pretty significantly. I suppose, yeah, all three of these weapon types are very saturated at this point. So for light bows, which Luca is, there's Summer Mikoto, Summer Cleo got a mana spiral. They're quite powerful. As far as Lucretia, there's wands that don't provide the skill damage co-ability. So Peony, for example, she has a different co-ability, so kind of a different class, but you know, still competes in the sense that unless you crafted 2 wands, you probably only are going to have one of them on your team. You could craft 2 wands, but a lot of players just don't go that far. But besides that, Chitose, who's an excellent buffer, Radiant Schwan Song, there have been some really good light wands, and even last month, or yeah, I guess last month at this point, Amane got a mana spiral, who's a 4-star light wand. And as for Estelle, when it comes to light healers, Hildegard recently got a mana spiral. She was always fairly good. Felicia had the ability to cleanse poison, which was something unique about her, even though she's a welfare unit. Vixel has regen over time on his first skill, which was something kind of nice about him as a helper. He also has sleep rest, which is kind of unique and interacts with energy. And then I think, man, I'm blanking on other light staves. Halloween Althemia. The other ones didn't really have a lot going on for them, unfortunately. And even some of the ones I mentioned really didn't. It was mainly Hildegard that actually saw any use, if at all, because unfortunately the light content has not really favored healers. But let's start off by talking about Lucretia. So they've made Lucretia to where her first skill is going to increase an area of effect, and if you use it when you're fully energized, you're also going to buff the entire team's critical rate by 10% for 30 seconds. Love to see that 30 seconds. That's like a long duration buff. That's very nice. Critical rate 10% is a decent buff as well, so I think it's a pretty good overall effect, and I think you can likely energize her really fast, especially if you're using somebody like, say, Gala Thor on her, right, where you get energy stacks every 5 seconds. So even though this is only 10%, it lasts 30 seconds. I don't think it's unreasonable that you could actually double up on this periodically. And her second skill gives her a strength buff for 15 seconds and gives her 3 energy levels. So if you use these together, even if you don't have Thor, you're going to be fully energized afterward, because this one gives you 2 to the entire team, and this one gives you 3 to her. She still has the same co-ability, same chain co-ability, which finally has come into play. I listed Lucretia as the best light wand, one of the best characters to invest in for the wand's co-ability, but at the time, there wasn't a lot of use of the energy mechanic. But the thing is, all the other chain co-abilities are defensive on light wands. this is the only one that actually gives you some offensive potential, and even if it's not being used often in a match, let's say you get inspiration stacks by the time you shapeshift into Gala Thor and you use an inspired Gala Thor skill. That's going to do ridiculous amounts of damage, so there is some merit to this for sure. Other than that, the rest of her kit, they basically just increase the percentages on these things and turn her curse res into potent curse res. Luca, similarly, he's mostly a straight upgrade of how he was before. So one thing they added on his second skill, Bolt of Light, it does extra damage to paralyzed foes, but also it's going to dispel buffs from each target now, which this is the first instance of dispel in light, so that's pretty notable. Besides that, they changed his first ability. Instead of just providing full HP equal strength, it's also going to increase his chance of causing paralysis by 60%, very solid when his HP is full. He has potent curse res, which is great, and poison res 100%, so he used to have 50% of each of these. I like that they've done this. He's only the second dual res character, and the light element gives him some flexibility. Mainly that poison res gives him flexibility in Tartarus' Wrath if you are actually entering portals. Yeah, I think they give him a fairly solid treatment. I don't really expect him to shoot up in DPS in the same way I'm expecting for Lucretia, but if he has good damage modifiers, he might. If not, he's more of a utility role. Consistent paralysis, nice balance with 2 affliction resistances, so he can play any role in Tartarus' Wrath and just kind of fill in. And the ability to dispel being unique in light is kind of nice. Then we have Estelle. Estelle has something very interesting in her abilities, but she's sort of unchanged. Her first skill heals the character with the lowest HP on your team. What they added is it's also going to buff their max HP by 15% for the rest of the quest. Max HP buffs are rare and hard to come by, especially ones that don't just affect the user and could potentially affect the whole team. It's basically Lowen, Sanoa randomly, and Silas who have access to this. Cassandra has one that applies to herself. There's not a lot of opportunities to get max HP buffs that I can think of, so I mean, Amane has one that applies to herself, but applying it to others on your team greatly increases the bulk of your team and the survivability, so being able to do this is actually fairly interesting. I mean, not a lot of healers can actually do something like this. Her second skill seems unchanged, probably has better modifiers, but it's basically a regen healing skill. I should also say, no other healer has this emergency heal effect on their first skill, so that is something unique about Estelle. In terms of her abilities, they made it so she has curse res. She used to have split resistances, one of them was sleep res, but now she has full curse res with 50% being potent res, so she gets a buff for that portion, I guess. And then the Loving Hand is the ability that I referred to that I think is kind of cool. So this increases her 4-strike damage and skill gauge fill rate. Also immediately readies Guardian's Grace, which is her second skill, for use when her HP drops to 30%. So it's a nice way to emergency heal herself and your whole team. Imagine just using Grace's shared skill on her. Effectively, you can get a big life shield at the start of a quest, and then immediately start healing back up. I mean, I think there's some cool things you can do with this. It might also be useful in auto battle comps as like an emergency save. And the other thing about it is, it actually gets to activate multiple times a quest. It takes 60 seconds to cool down, but you do get multiple uses out of it. And for auto in particular, the AI staff loves to force strike a lot, so at least she's getting some bonus damage off of it. I think all of these characters, they did a pretty good treatment of. What I liked about this was they did not just arbitrarily introduce more paralysis as an affliction or affliction punisher stuff. I mean, Luca already had paralysis going, so I give him a pass on that. These actually look like pretty fun mana spirals that I would be interested in checking out. I think have some decent potential as far as, their damage goes. But I think that's going to do it for today, everyone. That pretty much covers everything in this month in Dragalia Lost. We went a little deep on the spiral topic. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think about the plans for September in the comments below. Otherwise, everyone, thank you as always for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time.